Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. There's a lot of fun storylines for USC going into spring practice. I don't think there's a more exciting storyline than the quarterback battle that we are going to see take place between freshman Husan Longstreet and returning starter Jayden Maiava. I do not normally bang the table for true freshmen to start year one. I look at Husan Longstreet and say, this is one of those quarterbacks that not only did I really like coming out of high school, he possesses certain qualities that make you feel pretty good about his chances to have success year one as a quarterback at the collegiate ranks. I think it starts with the physical maturation. And this is kind of a funny conversation to have because you look at the headshot here with Husan Longstreet. He's got a little bit of a baby face, right? He does not have a baby build. I mean, this is a put together quarterback that, for lack of better terms, he's ripped. He's a guy that's physically mature enough to step on a college football field going into his freshman year and play some really quality football. And I think the second conversation is you look at Jayden and what you saw at the end of that 2024 year and say, look, we saw some things that we liked. We also saw some things that need to be cleaned up. And so I don't think Jayden, in the way he played at the end of 2024, is a lock to start and you're throwing away the key. I think Husan Longstreet has the legitimate chops to come in and push a guy like Jayden and potentially win this quarterback one job going into the 2025 year. Why do I believe that? That's what I want to get into for the next 10 to 15 minutes. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the USC fans. This is going to be a really fun storyline to take a look at over the next couple of weeks and months. We're going to talk a lot about it. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, let it fly in the comment section. Who do you think wins this quarterback battle going into the 2025 year? We'll chop it up in the comment section. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I want to start with Husan Longstreet and talk about the specific qualities that he brings to the table that make me feel good about his chances of being the starting quarterback in 2025. And it starts with he's the kind of quarterback that Lincoln Riley has historically had a lot of success with. And I think this is a large part of you saw USC pivot from Julian Lewis to Husan Longstreet because Husan Longstreet's more of a Lincoln Riley quarterback. What I mean by that is look at the quarterbacks that Lincoln Riley has had success with. The guys that can do a lot of different things, that can get outside the pocket, that can be playmakers at the quarterback position. That was probably the biggest knock on a guy like Miller Moss, who I'll go to my grave saying was a solid quarterback for USC in 2024, but he wasn't that difference maker. You couldn't move him out of the pocket. He couldn't really create outside the pocket. He could not throw off platform. There were certain throws that he just really couldn't make at a high level on the college football field. Husan Longstreet's the guy that you start going down that checklist and say, you're checking off almost every single box. And then you dive into the film and say there are certain things that he is able to do as a high school quarterback that are going to translate really well to the collegiate ranks. And I think it starts with his ability to get the football to the boundary. He's got a really quick release, but he's got a really, really big arm that can make all the throws. And you see a lot of freshman quarterbacks, and I think the best example of this is probably Julian Sayin last year at Ohio State, who, look, Julian Sayin, 24 touchdowns to 1 interception coming out as a senior, threw for a 75% completion percentage. Julian Sayin was a quarterback that was the from a between the ear standpoint, was just ready to play college football. But the thing that he really wasn't all that ready to do was, make all the throws as a college football quarterback. Husan Longstreet is a guy that can make all the throws. And one of the things that really separates young quarterbacks is their ability to throw to the boundary. Husan Longstreet, he can rip it to the boundary. There's not a blade of grass that he cannot access with his arm. And I think this first throw is the one that kind of pops out and says, yeah, he's a guy that's ready to make high-level college football throws. You're going to see a little bit of a post corner. A couple of things that you're going to see. One, opposite hash to the boundary. That is something a lot of young quarterbacks, and it's not necessarily the flashiest throw, but when you're on the opposite hash, do you have the ability to get it to the opposite boundary? Husan Longstreet does it all day in the film. This throw is big time. I mean, it's a post corner here where, one, you're throwing with anticipation. Husan Longstreet's ready to throw this football before the wide receiver is even turning his head back to the quarterback. Throwing with anticipation, another thing that young quarterbacks really do struggle with. Husan Longstreet does not. I mean, this is one, you love throwing with the anticipation. This ball's on a rope, post corner. I mean, you're throwing it 30 yards down the football field, but you're also throwing it to the opposite boundary, and it is on a rope and it is on a dot. And the ball placement can't be any better. This is a college football caliber throw that you don't see a lot of true freshmen have the ability to make. So that's where it starts. He's a guy that can make all the throws and access any part of the football field that he wants to. Something that, Miller Moss at times probably could not do for USC. Number two, he's a difference maker outside of the pocket. Lincoln Riley wants to move around his quarterbacks. He's reliant on his quarterbacks being able to go out and make some plays as an athlete at times. And that doesn't just mean running with the football. That means extending plays and throwing off platform and buying your wide receivers time to get open down the field. Again, something Miller Moss wasn't really able to do, and something Caleb Williams was able to do at, realistically, one of the highest levels that we've seen in college football. Caleb Williams' ability to be a playmaker and extend plays and be an athlete was something that nobody really wanted to talk about, was an elite part of Caleb Williams' game in the Lincoln Riley offense. You see it right here. This throw is silly. When you're talking about, one, you're getting yourself out of trouble. Husan Longstreet is a really twitchy athlete. He's much twitchier than Jayden. Jayden's big and maybe can run fast in a straight line. The quick twitch, the ability to make people miss, maybe not there. Husan Longstreet, just super twitchy on the run. And this throw is, he's not even, I don't know how he makes this throw, because he ain't even looking at this wide receiver across his body. There just ain't many quarterbacks that can do that. And I go, those are some of the stuff that Caleb Williams would do and be like, yeah, that you can't teach that. Husan Longstreet brings that to the table. And when you have the ability to, and Jim Harbaugh coined this phrase, make wine out of water, broken play, you need your quarterback to go make something happen. Husan Longstreet can do that. And when you have that ability, it kind of just raises your floor as a starting quarterback, where you don't have to be perfect on offense for good things to happen when Husan Longstreet is playing quarterback. Here's the last thing, and arguably the biggest separator between Husan Longstreet and Jayden, and that is Husan Longstreet's ability to work the middle of the field. This was something Jayden really struggled with. Jayden was pretty good working the boundary, had a big enough arm to access the boundary. It really just was not comfortable processing what was in front of him over the middle of the field. How many times did we see him throw it right into a face mask of an underneath zone defender? Way too many times. Husan Longstreet, there are a couple examples on the film where he is dicing teams up. Here's St. John Bosco, dicing teams up over the middle of the field, throwing it not only with really good ball placement, but seeing what's going on and throwing with some anticipation. The ball always comes out quick, which is another thing you like. There are some times when you turn on the tape for these high school quarterbacks, they're not necessarily elite quick processors. Husan Longstreet's that guy. The ball consistently comes out quick, and you see him work in the middle of the field here. One, he's got to throw this over this underneath trail defender before the safety can come down and make a play, and he's going to throw his wide receiver into space here. This is something that you just didn't really see Jayden do. Jayden was a guy that, I need to see my wide receiver open. I'm going to throw the football. You can be a solid quarterback doing that. It's hard to be a great quarterback doing that. And Husan Longstreet, this is a junior film, as a junior in high school, showed that ability to throw with anticipation and throw his wide receivers open in the middle of the field. You look at Jayden, this is kind of the second part of the conversation, is not only do I think Husan Longstreet is capable of winning this job and playing as a true freshman, and I would love to hear from the USC fans, because I know there's kind of a differing of opinion here. This is my opinion. I don't think you saw enough from Jayden at the end of 2024 to say he's a lock to start for USC in 2025. There are things you like, right? He's a big body with a big frame that's hard to bring down, can make the throws to the boundary. And there's a year two in the Lincoln Riley offense, which no doubt gives Jayden a kind of leg up on Husan Longstreet. The cons, though, one, especially in that Texas A&M game in the bowl game, a lot of predetermining throws. He's a guy that this is what I'm doing pre-snap, and I'm going to throw this ball no matter what. And he puts the ball in harm's way too much. Number two, really struggles to process and go through his progressions. I mean, the very little did you see on the film from Jayden during that end of 2024 where he is going through multiple progressions. That is something that if he's going to start going into 2025, he needs to take that step. And look, there's a very good chance that he gets better as a processor. He gets better at taking care of the football. My concern with Jayden is you didn't really see those steps in progression during his time playing. You know, we knew Jayden was a guy that needed some work coming from UNLV, a guy that big arm, big body that can make a lot of throws. But you saw UNLV too and put the ball in harm's way a lot in kind of predetermining throws. The last thing is he just seems to be trying to do a little bit too much, and there's not necessarily walking that line where go back to Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams tried to do a lot, especially in that 2023 year when the defense was absolutely miserable opposite him. But he was always in pretty good control, you know. And yes, I'm trying to do a lot. And yes, I'm trying to be a difference maker, but I'm also not making the catastrophic mistakes. Jayden, on the other hand, he tries to do a lot. And there are times where he just makes some of the throws and mistakes that just they make you scratch your head. And so you look at Jayden and say that there's a chance that he takes those steps, especially year two with a coach like Lincoln Riley. There's also a chance he doesn't. And if he does not take those steps, I think Husan Longstreet is going to start for USC in the 2025 year. You're in a good spot where you kind of know. One of the things I loved about Jayden is that he did win football games, which was kind of the knock on Miller Moss, where it looked good, but when the moment was big, you know, we weren't really making the plays to win, which is a important thing to do as a quarterback. But there are a lot of things that I think Jayden needs to clean up going into 2025. And if he doesn't, or just Husan Longstreet comes in and is that guy, there's a real good chance that Husan Longstreet can start. And I guess to round out this conversation, it's not just because we like Husan Longstreet. To me, it's because there are qualities about this kid with him coming out of high school that make me think he's got a chance to be successful year one. And let's just call it as it is. In this modern era of college football, for the USC fans who've been following this sport for a while, we're not used to seeing all these freshmen come out and be legitimate difference makers, not just at the quarterback position, but in general. Think about Jeremiah Smith or a guy like Ryan Williams, even a guy like Cam Fountain for USC. Normally, these kids coming out of high school needed that redshirt year, even if they were elite prospects. As time has gone on, these kids coming out of high school are just more ready to play early. And I think Husan Longstreet can be one of those quarterbacks for USC in the 2025 year. Legitimate quarterback battle that's going to take place. We're going to be following it, reading the spring practice notes, talking about what we're hearing. I think the biggest thing that we want to hear from Husan Longstreet is that he's understanding the offense. If this is a kid, we know physically he can play. If he's a guy that comes in early in spring, shows out in the spring game, continues to build in fall camp, and continues to show that he's understanding this offense at a high level, I think he's going to be the starting quarterback for USC in 2025, which is going to be a really fun storyline. And if I remember correctly, USC has a couple of games to get his feet wet a little bit before he really gets into Big Ten play. We'll close it out there. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Much more importantly, let it fly in the comment section, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.